webinar today looking at how we have introduced Reminiscence into the Welsh Ambulance Service. Early days for us, and lots of lessons to learn, but we've been doing this work for about sort of 6 months to a year now, so really excited to share with you our work to date and some of the learning that we've gone through and some of our plans for the future. Hope you can all hear me okay. Just get rid of a few things on my screen so I can see you. Lovely. So we have had a dementia plan in the Welsh Ambulance Services for a number of years now. Delighted that the Trust gives it such high importance and value. So it's been around sort of 2015-16 since we put pen to paper and wrote our sort of dementia vision. And that is obviously in line with national plans in Wales, the National Action Plan for Wales, and the new dementia standards, which is wonderful to see such structure and momentum now with the standards to improve dementia care, dementia services in Wales. So just to give you a sort of flavour for some of our work programmes, we have a really exciting and wonderful dementia programme. So these are just some of our strands of work. Training. So the learning for our workforce is vast. We really try and have a blended learning approach for our different workforce. And as you can imagine, we have different staff groups. So that will range from paramedic, emergency medical technician, and other staff who are delivering sort of frontline face-to-face services. And then we also have a vast and ever-growing telephony-based workforce. So 111 call takers, nurses and other professions, as well as nurses and paramedics delivering services over the phone, clinical triage over the phone. So a range of staff groups that we need to make sure are skilled and knowledgeable about dementia. So lots of training. Training takes up a lot of our time. So lots of e-learning, lots of podcasts, webinars, and really trying to sort of drive an innovative approach to getting dementia learning out to our workforce, who are a pretty mobile 24/7 group of staff. Co-production is at the heart of what we do. We really try to make sure that people living with dementia, the carers, their families are involved and central to our work. I'll chat a little bit more about that in a second, how we do that, why we do it, and what people tell us. Partnerships is a big one, making sure we're around the table with the right people. Health, social, third sector, as well as a range of other partners. I chair the All Wales Blue Light Group dementia network, so or police or fire, mountain rescue, other sorts of emergency response services. So really great that in Wales we have that emergency service structure to talk about dementia and drive some of the work forward. And then some of the other work that we sort of lead is projects, innovation, improvement work, and this sort of field now fits into that. So the next couple of slides, I just want to give you a flavour of and some background of what's led to us using Reminiscence in our work. So as I say, in some pretty old photos here, we're lucky in the Welsh Ambulance Services that we have previously engaged well with dementia communities, networks, dementia groups across Wales. It's a big reach getting the voice of people across Wales is a big job. And until the pandemic, I think we did that pretty well. But since the pandemic, we've had to sort of engage a bit differently. But now that things are moving forward, we're out and about a lot more now. So the face-to-face stuff is what people living with dementia and their carers value. Come and talk to me, come and hear my stories, hear my feedback. So generally, people will tell us about our services, that it's difficult, if you're living with dementia or if you're a carer, it's difficult to use our telephone-based services. Ringing 999, for example, is the main sort of piece of feedback that we get. It's tough calling your services. We'll be throwing questions at you. Who are you? Where are you? What's going on? That can be tough for people. People also tell us that being in our vehicles, being in our physical environments is difficult. Noises, lights, sirens, it can be uncomfortable. Colours are difficult. There's only a few base colours that you often see in the back of our vehicles: white, green and yellow, for example. And sort of the smells, the chemical smell that people can sense in the back of the trucks also. People also say, you know, it's a long wait for our services, but when we turn up, care is excellent, care is great, sort of frontline staff delivery and treatment and care is brilliant. Another piece of feedback we often get from dementia communities is please listen to carers, involve carers, value the voice and the role of carers to support the person living with dementia sort of pathway and journey as they move through our services. I just want to focus a little bit more around the environment, if that's okay, because the learning that we've had so far has obviously led to the Reminiscence work. So as I say, we receive feedback from people living with dementia, feedback from staff, patient safety incidences, concerns on situations where our environments, and that includes our vehicles, processes, staff interactions. So we receive feedback about those things which have an impact on people living with dementia and can often be distressing, confusing and anxiety provoking. So creating more optimal environments for people living with dementia we know will develop a more patient-centred service and is the right thing to do. The majority of people that we serve in the ambulance service are older and are living with one or more chronic conditions, and obviously including dementia. So we need to be really listening and learning from that community of people. So that sort of feedback from dementia communities has led us to do some specific work around our environments. Let's do a worldwide literature review. Who's doing what across the world around emergency ambulance service design or developing dementia or sensory friendly environments, ambulance environments. Not much happening across the world. So we did a project, and I'd be happy to share a paper with you, anybody who wants to do it. It's in this first draft, but happy to share it. That paper is the literature review, engagement and consultation feedback. Again, you know, we did another piece of work last year with dementia communities, specifically around our environments. And we've also sort of developed a series of recommendations for change. You know, what innovations can we do now in the back of our vehicles to make things better? So some of those things include changes to the flooring, colours and design of the flooring, for example, is one. Do we put some pictures in the back of the vehicle so people can be distracted or occupied or have something to talk about with crews, for example? And then another sort of big learning outcome for us was how can we use reminiscence therapy within the period of care, and how do we consider that for our different workforce? And I'll chat about that at the end. Obviously, the next few slides will be talking predominantly about our frontline and face-to-face type staff who can deliver reminiscence with patients face-to-face on the back of vehicles. So a quick definition of reminiscence. I thought I'd throw this in there for those who are unfamiliar with it. So the basic definition of reminiscence is remembering events and experiences from the past. So within the ambulance service, you know, by doing that, we will have the opportunity to connect, distract people over things that they can reminisce or remember and enjoy talking about. And that allows us then to develop meaningful connections and relationships with the people that we're caring for. Obviously, in the back of an ambulance, particularly in an emergency, if somebody living with dementia is in pain or stressed or anything, you know, having some distraction to talk and reminisce about something is good. And there's lots of evidence to support that. Now, this work is also in line with the new Allied Health Professions Dementia Framework in Wales that launched, I think, before Christmas. And that's available online if anybody needs to see that. And obviously, paramedicine forms part of the allied health profession roles, the roles that are within the allied health profession sort of framework. So we're delighted to be supporting that. So I just wanted to share some interesting information from our literature review that that we found, which strengthens our thinking with regards to using reminiscence therapy. So I love this quote because it's all about sort of, as cognition sort of deteriorates, the senses for people living with dementia are really important. So people with dementia are sensitive to sensory experiences on their environment. So we need to really think hard about their environment to make it understandable, comfortable and therapeutic if possible. This is just some of the learnings from our literature review when we're sort of like looking now at developing dementia-friendly and sensory-friendly ambulances. So what we learned is that, people living with dementia can have problems navigating and engaging with their environment and the people that are around you. Dementia-friendly design is a term frequently used but not always evaluated. Very, very little out there which looks at measurement and evaluation or has any sort of improvement methodology that sits behind making any changes and tracking them and making sure there are positive experiences and outcomes. We know that poor design disables people living with dementia. So, all of this evidence pushed us to want to do something and do things differently. There's also a distinct lack of research involving people living with dementia. And as I mentioned, anything we do, we want to do in partnership. So any changes or innovations that we make now to vehicles will be done in partnership with people who are sort of, helping us design and co-produce anything that we do. So loving that, and that's great. A sort of worldwide search on dementia-friendly ambulance environments gave us very little. There's no evaluation or published literature around any of this. A number of services, though, particularly I do know a number of ambulance services in the UK have done some work to create better environments. Those include things like dementia-friendly toolkits, USB sticks for music, for example, pictures on blinds, on vehicles, so the blinds can be pulled up or pulled down. The person doesn't have to be looking at the image on the blind, for example, if they want to look out the window, they can. So great examples of work that has been done over the last few years. However, very little evidence on robust methodology or published evaluation work to help us move forward with this. So I believe we are one of the first trusts in the UK to pilot reminiscence therapy. And the next sort of like 5, 10, 15 minutes now, I just want to chat about one of the ways in which we're doing that by using what we call a RITA tablets and software that's on a tablet. And RITA stands for Reminiscence Interactive Therapy and Activities. So Mike will come in a moment and chat through, like it's from my improvement network, who we're working in partnership with on these tablets. And we'll chat through, what that kit is, what it can do, and how we're working in partnership to, to make things better for patients and who we serve in Wales. This is just some of the, sorry, I skipped this one now, just some of the sort of evidence which tells us that improvements to the environment can be effective. So, like I just mentioned, those pictures there in the back of vehicles, so we're looking at that now. Although there needs to be sensitivities to different cultures. We know in some dementias, for example, people can have hallucinations and become stressed by certain imagery. So we need to be very, very balanced and careful here, which is why any sort of innovation that we do with around artwork and pictures needs to be maybe done small scale and tested as we go to make sure the impact on patients and staff is a positive one. We know that digital technology can be used to support. So using for our staff on the back of vehicles, for example, using their mobile phones, using their iPads, and using these RITA tablets is a good thing. Digital technology, we know that's how they're moving, so we need to maximise the use of these resources with people on the back of our vehicles. And this last little quota is just, Reminiscence Harbour sector that's integrated into the environment, can support people in a personal way. It does say there at the bottom there, look, this may be more challenging in settings where patients stay for a relatively short time. So you might think that being in the back of a vehicle is a short period of time, and yes, some of this technology doesn't suit everybody, but the learning that we've had so far is that people in pain or people who are stressed, it's often helpful for them to have distraction. I'm sure you're all aware, and I've read the news and see the news, so we often struggle with long delays outside accidents and emergency. So people living with dementia, for example, can become stressed by that long period, that long wait, which can be up to a good period of hours. So having some of these activities on this Reminiscence tablet they're a good thing, and they distract them and people can connect with them. So I will introduce Mike now, if that's okay. And Mike is from my improvement network, and we work in partnership with him to test and pilot these RITA tablets. And I'll come back to you in a second and chat a little bit more about learning and outcomes to date within the Welsh Ambulance Service. And then we're also going to hear from Ben, who is one of our emergency medical technicians, who's one of our RITA champions. So we'll also hear from him in a moment about his experiences of the RITA tablet. But I'll introduce Mike now.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Al. Appreciate it. Thanks for the intro. Hi all, good afternoon. I'm just going to go through 3 slides, nothing massive, just to give you a little bit of an understanding of what RITA is, how it's used, where it is in Wales, and where our journey is hopefully taking us to, a really positive journey, which Al and I have been discussing with different regions across Wales. So I'll start with, what is RITA? Well, normally people at this particular point go, oh God, I was wondering who or what RITA is. There is method in the madness. As Al just said, it does stand for something. It stands for Reminiscence Interactive Therapeutic Activities. We do have a more generic version as well, called Rehabilitation and Interactive Therapeutic Activities. And the reason being is because RITA works incredibly well across a multitude of services: children's services, people with learning disabilities, A&E, ITU, and obviously they're more generic. Not everyone has dementia or any kind of memory impairment within those services, but RITA has been proven to work incredibly well there as well. Something that's important to mention as well is RITA is now being termed an alternative therapeutic intervention. Historically, it can be, and still does. In fact, just before the call, I was writing an email to a group of individuals that I presented to, because there's a misconception or misperception of what RITA is. People think it's a glorified DVD player or a music station or an entertainment tool. Yes, absolutely, it does incorporate a lot of content such as that, but it's a therapeutic intervention because it's a significant enhancement to people's cognitive their cognition, basically, in a variety of settings. Now, what it is an all-in-one touchscreen solution, and it offers digital reminiscence therapy and meaningful activities. Now, it says there that it's a relatively new tool in the fields of nursing and healthcare. Now, anyone that's experienced will know that reminiscence therapy isn't new. Things like art therapy and music therapy aren't new. What we've done to make it new and innovative is to provide a platform, a digital platform, to enable staff in a variety of settings to be able to deliver those type of interventions quickly and on the fly. Now, it's aimed at offering support for a wide range, as I mentioned earlier on, and cohort of individuals, including older people, people with mental health issues, dementia, of course, learning difficulties, acute brain injuries, stroke rehab patients, and so on and so forth. And it's a means of engaging them, reducing any distress or agitation they're experiencing, isolation, depression. A big talking point at the moment is delirium. It's very commonly misdiagnosed as dementia, and behaviours that challenge. Not to mention boredom, particularly in hospitals, and I'll touch upon where we are across Wales in hospitals in the next slide. Now, importantly, things that it's able to achieve and deliver is appropriate distraction and de-escalation. It's something that you can use to get someone to focus on within a stressful environment. Of course, ambulance services, whether we like it or not, are stressful environments for anyone, but for people who are quite complex, including those living with dementia, even more so. It's a cognitive stimulation, so it gets people thinking, it stimulates the brain. It prompts conversation via reminiscence content. So it could be old music tracks, it could be a TV clip, it could just simply be an image. I always use a few different examples of the type of reminiscence content that works. For instance, it could be a music track that stimulated a conversation about that maybe being the track played at the first dance of their wedding. It could be an image of a holiday destination that's prompted a conversation about the days when they used to go on holidays when they were children. It could be a TV clip, such as Morecambe and Wise or Dad's Army or One Foot in the Grave, that prompted a conversation about the days when, and we'll all remember this, we actually used to sit down as a family on a Saturday evening and watch those programs. It relieves boredom. Now, obviously, that's more appropriate to the hospital environment where boredom is a big problem. Boredom leads to stress, leads to anxiety, and therefore cognitive decline. But that does also happen in ambulances as well. As we all know, there's a lot of challenges in ambulance services at the moment, particularly having to wait outside of hospitals for hours and on end. And there's only so much that a paramedic can do to keep someone occupied and stimulated. And it also really supports communication. We've got communication aids within RITA, such as the Show Me Where It Hurts, which is a simple touchscreen capability using a traffic light-based system from hurts a little in green to hurts a lot in red, enabling non-verbal patients, or maybe those that don't speak English as a first language, they could have reverted back to their mother tongue as a consequence of dementia. It enables them to touch parts of their body on the screen, explaining where they may be experiencing pain. And we also have the Hear Me application. Now, that was originally co-designed with Queen Elizabeth Hospitals Birmingham and their LD team to support communication with non-verbal patients, whether they were literate or illiterate. So you can communicate using commonly used phrases in text, broken down into different categories. And we've now enabled translation as well. So you can translate on the fly, communicatively in 26 different languages, including the lovely Welsh language as well. Something else to very quickly mention is we've got a load of lovely Welsh content within RITA as well. The latest version of RITA is also going to enable a flick between Welsh language interface and English, of course, and we're going to have that for a multitude of different languages as we move internationally. Could you switch to the next slide, Al? Brilliant, thank you. So that is the story of RITA in Wales. It's 10 years in the making, and I'm incredibly proud to share that RITA is now available and being used in all health boards across Wales, in most hospitals, if not all hospitals. And we're re-engaging with sites that we engaged with years back to get them upgraded to use the most recent versions of RITA, which have been extensively enhanced, including that translation capability that I mentioned earlier on. Not to mention, we work with a great deal of local authorities across Wales, and therefore RITA is available in care homes and being used incredibly well in care homes. As you can probably tell, my thought process really was, well, we're engaged with every service really across Wales. It's in assessment units, day services, care homes, hospitals. There's one missing here, which I think is quite appropriate, and it's the ambulance service. And it's something that I brought up and engaged with Al 2 years ago now. It's been a long journey, but we have got there, and obviously the impact is clear to see, as you will see when Al continues shortly. And then finally, this is the journey we want to end up on. So we've got a couple of different regions within Wales that are using RITA extensively, and that is North Wales and Gwent. And we're going to be working with commissioners and senior hospital leaders to talk about how we can try and join the use of RITA up across the pathway. It provides all of that wonderful familiarity, distraction, de-escalation. So it's going to be a familiar, positive thing to have within that pathway. And what we want to do is seamlessly transport profiles from care homes in RITA into hospital environments as well, where you can import the profile that someone has in a care home environment, and then the care staff and the nurses on the wards in the hospital can interact with that same capability, which I think is going to be a wonderful thing. Ultimately, to get the service users back to their residents that they came from on the same care package and back to the same care facility. So it can only be a positive thing. So I'll hand back to Al on that note.
Thank you. Really excellent, Mike, and I think hopefully everybody listening will see the value of using this technology and using this software with patients. And I know I have obviously come into this with my dementia hat on, but as Mike says, there's so many other types of patients and groups of people who some of these activities and games and music will benefit. I heard from one of our technicians the other day who was saying that I'm using it with everybody on the back of the vehicle at the moment because of the winter pressures and long delays. You know, it distracts it helps with boredom if people are waiting for a long period of time. But thanks for that, Mike. You know, we're delighted to be working with you and onwards and upwards, really. But I just wanted to give you an idea of we started a 1-year pilot last June, July, so we're halfway through. Lots of learning so far, but lots of good outcomes and experiences. So I just wanted to share some case studies with you from our RITA champions, we call them. They are paramedics and emergency medical technicians. So the current tablets that we have out there are all within our emergency services, so providing emergency response. We'd love to move some of these tablets into a non-emergency transport. We can really see the value of, you know, supporting people living with dementia and other conditions as they might be on a journey to a hospital appointment. Lots of rurality in Wales. We know that people are on those tracks for a long period of time also, so we can really see the value there as well. So that's one of our next phases. But as I say, we're halfway through our 1-year pilot. We have 24 tablets at the moment that are out there with our emergency medical service staff, who we call our RITA champions. But just wanted to share some case studies with you, if I may. This first one, this RITA champion, this was the first call that she went to after she had the tablet, I believe. And her first experience of it was amazing. So a lady who actually had a hip fracture, and they really struggled to get her onto the vehicle. But then the RITA champion provided her with a tablet and was trying to engage with her. And there's an activity where you can build like an aquarium, and she was away and she was adding a scuba diver and the bubbles and the fish. Really engaged, distracted her wonderfully. You can see there. I had the pain relief, but never used it, and we struggled to get her off the vehicle in the end because she was so engrossed with what she was doing. So a good patient experience there for her, even though I'm sure you can imagine lots of pain. Another example here of somebody with, you know, elderly person with Alzheimer's, waiting, you know, long wait outside the hospital, loving the tablet, listening to the tunes, humming along. Also was looking at a few of the movie clips, becoming restless whilst waiting, but once started to use the activities, her mood settled. A study here where a person who hadn't been diagnosed with dementia but was experiencing memory problems, long wait, 5 hours at the back of the ambulance, thoroughly enjoyed playing the games and listening to the tunes, which brought back good memories and allowed him to sing along, and he remembered most of the words. This is feedback from staff. We know during these long handover delays we're encountering at the A&Es at the moment, it really helped the patient and made the time pass quicker. Another case here, gentleman patient 95, the carer was involved and said that he liked hymns, didn't want to engage with the tablet, didn't want to hold it, didn't really want to look at it. But when the hymns started playing in the background, you could see the calming influence that had on him. So that, you know, that just goes to show this, our RITA champions really need to know how to engage the piece of kit with the patients and the family. A lot of the time people don't want to engage with it, you know, an iPad or a tablet, but if the music was playing or they were able to look at the pictures in the background, you know, you can see it having a positive impact. And I love this study here where the lady with dementia was very agitated. I believe that she was becoming uncontrollable after the pandemic, didn't really want to leave the house. So the journey to hospital was tough on her, was traumatic for her. So the champion used the tablet to distract, chose the music she wanted to listen to and what background pictures to look at. It was enough to calm her, make her forget about being in the ambulance, just long enough for them to reach the hospital without distress. Now, her son travelled with them and was impressed with how calm she was. So by giving her the tablet and letting her choose, she was in control of something. So some really lovely, you know, patient experiences and outcomes there. And one that came through to me the other day, just to mention, was a gentleman with mental health problems when he called 999 with some mental health issues. So again, along the way, threw some music on, and he had a really good voice. So when it was like he was loving singing along, but the impact on the crew then listening to him was a lovely experience for all. So I loved that there. I will introduce Ben now, if I may. Just go back to this image here for you to have something nice to look at. I'm going to introduce Ben, who's one of our emergency medical technicians in Mid Wales. Hasn't been a RITA champion for long, but was kind enough to want to come along and say a few words about why he chose to work with us on this, why he thought reminiscence therapy would be valuable for him in his role, and some of the early learning to date really with some of the activities he uses and the impact that it's had on patients. So can I bring you in, please, Ben? The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, all. So as Ali's mentioned, I haven't been a champion for too long at present. My sort of thoughts on joining and sort of offering my services, as we all know, it's quite obvious now. Long waits at hospital. You know, with any patient, it's, you know, a long time offloading in an unfamiliar location, especially with people living with dementia. It's a tricky situation to be in, both for patient and crew. So anything I think that can help is something, and obviously willing to put my time forward to help out. Good feedback so far from, you know, 95% of the people I've tried it with. You know, you get a couple of people that like to be left alone and like to be with their own sort of thoughts. So, but the majority of people now, it's a great distraction technique, as Alison and Mike have sort of mentioned. There's games on there, there's music, there's movie clips, everything really. Brilliant. You can pick the sort of genre or the era of music or film or videos. Literally something for everyone. As been mentioned, not just dementia patients. Children love it with the games on there, noughts and crosses, and spot the difference and things like that. So, you know, it's for children, it's a daunting experience, being in an ambulance with some funny looking people in the back with masks or whatever on. But like I said, all in all, so far, good outcomes, good feedback from a lot of people, and most of all, it gives the patient a more sort of comfortable experience, and makes it a lot easier for the crew then to manage people when they're a lot calmer, and you've got that technique to be able to distract them and keep them sort of entertained for, you know, an amount of time, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be going down. So yeah, no, brilliant. I'd happily carry on and use this over and over again, but so far all good.
Nice one, thanks, Ben. So far so good, Ben, thanks. And I know it's early days, but as I say, onwards and upwards, and we can really see the value of using some of this software with our patients. But you mentioned there sort of like, yes, you can see people are becoming calm and are distracted by some of the activities, but the impact it's having on you and your working experience too. So I think that's really important, because we know sort of like it's a stressful role, it's a stressful job. You're really trying to do the best for people. So if people are calm and can maybe have more more meaningful conversations and discussions with people. I think the impact on, you know, we can't undervalue that as well, the impact it's having on the whole environment for you as well, delivering that care. So loving the feedback that that everybody, all the champions are giving so far. Thanks, Ben. Just a couple more slides from me, if that's okay. Obviously, the RITA software, the RITA tablet, the gold standard. We only have 24 of them at the moment across Wales. We are looking to purchase a handful more, however, over the next over the next couple of weeks, couple of months, to sort of extend it out into other areas. So really keen to look at sort of, like I say, the non-emergency transport crews and having some of these resources available on those types of vehicles. But we're also we also are pushing Reminiscence as a concept to all of our staff. So these are 2 apps, for example, that are on all staff iPads. So all of our frontline people, whether you're a paramedic, technician in our emergency medical service, or whether you're a non-emergency transport driver, you will have an iPad as well. So some of these apps are available for all staff. So we're really trying to push the message, encourage people to be using some of this, some of this theory and some of this sort of concept with patients, and all staff have access to it as well. I just wanted to throw in this because it's pretty and I like it, like the bluebells, but this is an area we're moving into as well, around sort of a distraction and reminiscence over imagery and pictures. We're looking at having some pictures on the back of some of our vehicles. Already in March, we're taking delivery of 17 new non-emergency transport vehicles, and there will be some imagery on blinds, as I say. So that's happening in March, not too far away. So we'll be wanting to do a big song and dance about that. But there is also another idea here to have sort of bigger images over some of the windows. Again, you know, wanting to do this maybe small scale for the moment to test it. But that's what we're looking at the moment. And last slide, promise. So how are we moving forward? So we're looking at sort of evaluation over the summertime now, where I'll be looking to do some, you know, really in-depth interviews and conversations with the RITA champions, really look at the case studies, picking those apart, look at some of the data, because we have access to a lot of data on the system behind the scenes, to look at when staff used it, what they used, how long we spent on it, so we can really look in detail at some of that. Are we looking at more tablets? Probably, and look at the sort of, you know, how we learn from what we've done, the work we've done so far, and how we spread that. But just to give you an idea of some of the learning so far in the last 6 months, really, when I put out a call to our workforce, you know, we have this RITA software, who would like to help out, who would like to become a champion, flooded with champions who are coming forward. Really easy to get them on board and get the tablets out. You know, well, I will be honest, one of the issues we're struggling with at the moment is that ongoing engagement with them. You know, these are operational people out and about 24/7, as I say, winter pressures, you know, we're going through some strike action at the moment. So ongoing engagement with your staff group can be tough. But we take that on the chin, that's no problem. And also training and sort of like onboarding and sort of regular contact and regular training with the champions to make sure they are confident and competent in using the technology, using the activities, etc. So I would say training and really gold standard training for them initially is really important. So that's the sort of RITA work. We are looking at other parts of the workforce, as I say. So, for example, we have clinical staff, nurses, paramedics, etc., who sit on we call it our clinical desk. So it's a hear and treat. So our operations is our frontline sort of emergency medical services. We call see and treat. We will come out to see you and treat you, and maybe treat you at scene or take you to an alternative pathway, hospital, or whatever else. But we also have a range of hear and treat staff. So we will triage you over the phone, assess you over the phone, what's happening, how can I help you. really trying to encourage, not going transfers to hospital, not everybody needs an ambulance. How can we treat you at home, seat you at home, CGP, pharmacy, or whoever else, alternative care pathway. So those staff groups, nurses and paramedics over the phone, are on the phone for a long period of time. As I say, really struggle sometimes with people living with dementia and their carers because of the dementia and the challenges that brings with answering questions over the phone or generally being on the phone. So they have come to us and asked, since you're doing some reminiscence work, how can we deliver reminiscence therapy over the phone? So we're doing some really exciting work at the moment in partnership with some training organisations, developing a toolkit for telephone-based staff, tips and techniques. How can you occupy, how can you distract people over the phone, particularly if there's a long wait. So sometimes you're on the call for a long period of time, or they're waiting for an ambulance for a long period of time. So what can people do, either on the phone with us or by themselves in the home, to reminisce and undertake some activities? So lots ahead, lots of learning so far, lots of ideas that we have, and lots to do. But it's been a delight to sort of, share with you our journey so far, and some of the outcomes and some of the learning that we've had. Long way to go, but we'd be delighted to talk to anybody who wants to come and chat with me or my team about some of this, to strengthen it or to ask any questions that you have. I think you'll stop sharing the screen a moment, Kim, so maybe I can see people and see if there's anything in Q&As or in the Q&A or chat, or if anybody wants to ask a question. Sorry, Owen, I'm taking over your job now as chair. So
that's no problem at all, Al. That's absolutely great. I was going to say, it doesn't look like we've got any questions in the chat, but I think that's because your presentation was so comprehensive, it's covered the entire waterfront already. So that was brilliant. I was going to say, since we don't appear to have any questions at the moment, obviously we've got an awful lot of information to go on there. I think, first of all, I'd like to say thanks ever so much to Alison, Ben and Mike for that really comprehensive presentation. And it's lovely to see a sort of service improvement in, obviously, with ambulances and ways to make services better for people. And obviously, on behalf of CADER, and I think on behalf of the general public as well, thanks ever so much to the Welsh Ambulance Service Trust for the fantastic job you do. I know it's not always rewarded in the way you might want it to be, but certainly, you save lives, you make a heck of a difference, and it's a real pleasure having you here this afternoon. Okay, now it doesn't look like we've got any questions at all, so I'll bring the webinar to a close, if I may. Should anybody want to contact us, our email address is cader@swansea.ac.uk. And on the chat there, Alison's details are there, so you can contact her directly as well. It's been lovely having you as an audience. Thanks ever so much for your participation and for listening so patiently. And we hope to see you at next month's CADER webinar. So thank you ever so much, everybody. That's been brilliant. Lovely to see you.
Thanks, everyone.